Angry guy here, and women will now be jailed for paternity fraud as law passes making paternity fraud a crime. Guys, if you're enjoying this content, please help get this channel to 100,000 subscribers on its journey to 2 million by subscribing to the channel if you already haven't, liking the video, and turning on notifications to never miss another video ever again. Now let's begin. Women will now be jailed for paternity fraud as a law passes making paternity fraud a crime. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So, as you guys can see, we have a lot to cover. Did Tennessee pass a new paternity bill? What to know? So, yes, they did actually. And it's not a bill that people think. Originally, the bill proposed that an unmarried man would be required to take a DNA test proving paternity before he could sign the voluntary acknowledgement of paternity and have his name on the birth certificate. So the bill did not actually pass. The bill was filed at the beginning of 2022 legislative session and passed through one subcommittee before being deferred and placed on the Civil Justice Committee calendar 3 times. Ultimately, the bill was diverted to summer study where it passed away. However, did a parentage fraud bill pass into law? And we talked about this in another video, but there's a lot more information that you guys have to know regarding this. So the same person who filed the bill, same Congressman Parkinson, filed a similar bill, HB 20, a similar bill to 20 HB 2698 during the 2023 legislative session. That bill did pass. It was signed into law, and the law says that anyone who establishes a person as the biological parent of a child with intent to deprive the actual biological parent from their parental rights is guilty of a crime. And this is actually now a Class B misdemeanor. Now, many of you are like, oh, well, this doesn't matter. It's just a Class B misdemeanor. The maximum that they'll face is 6 months in jail and a $500 fine. However, that's not actually correct. When we look into this further, there is actually much more to the story than that. We went ahead and we did some additional research, and basically, this is only the start of the woes for women in Tennessee. They could actually be facing a much, much more time, larger time in prison for this as a result of the bill. So as we know, a lot of these women are pathological. If they do it once, they will do it again. They will go right back to, rinsing and repeating the same exact toxic behavior. Well, this is where they're going to get into trouble. So the new paternity fraud law that Tennessee passed, which makes it a crime to establish a person as the biological parent of a child with intent to deprive the actual biological parent from their parentage. This specific form of fraud is now a Class B misdemeanor. The law does make exceptions for children conceived out of unwanted intimacy, or if the child has been in the process of being adopted, or the victim of the offense was the defendant's spouse at the time of the offense. But here's where things get very intriguing. So the penalties for a Class B misdemeanor in Tennessee, a Class B misdemeanor carries a maximum sentence of 6 months in jail and a $500 fine. The judge has several options when imposing misdemeanor sentences, including jail time, probation, sentencing alternatives, and diversion. The judge may sentence a defendant to any jail term that's within the limit for that misdemeanor class. As for upgrading the charges, in certain cases in the law provides enhanced felony penalties for repeat misdemeanors. What this means is that if women, and a lot of Black women, they do this to multiple men, they have multiple baby daddies, and they deliberately put the wrong names on the birth certificate. So there's a lot of women walking around out there that have multiple kids, and they have multiple names of different guys on those birth certificates, and those kids are not theirs. Well, guess what? If they are found doing this multiple times, right, then the charges can be upgraded, And if the offense involved, for example, the same victim, there's different, right? A defendant faces a Class C felony. Several misdemeanor offenses also carry felony penalties when when the level of harm to a person or property, such as basically denying them the access to their child, or the rightful parent. It's pretty significant. So we're going to talk about the upgraded charges. In Tennessee, repeat offenses of certain misdemeanors can result in enhanced penalties. The specific upgraded charges and its associated penalties would depend on the nature of the repeat offense and discretion of the court. If a Class B a misdemeanor were to be upgraded, it would likely become a felony. The penalties for felonies in Tennessee are the following. A Class C felony ranges from a sentence that is not less than 15, guys, not less than 15 years, nor more than 25 years. Okay, so this is significant. A range 2 sentence is not less than 25 years, nor more than 40 years. And basically, in most of these cases, what the woman would actually end up getting, if it's a repeated offense, as we saw above, would likely be a Class C felony. So a Class C felony ranges a Class C felony sentences, it's not going to be less than 3 years, nor more than 6 years. So she will have to serve at least 3 years in prison. Maybe she might get out on parole, for good behavior. But you know how Keisha behaves in there. They might end up attacking more time on. But so this could be upgraded to a Class C felony. That's the most likely one. And that's a relatively large amount of time. So she could be serving 3 years to 6 years for repeated offenses. But it really depends. It really depends. So likely upgrades for the Class B misdemeanor. In Tennessee, the specific upgrade charges for a repeat offense of a Class B misdemeanor would depend on the nature of the repeat offense and discretion of the court. However, it's important to note that not all misdemeanors are subject to enhanced felonies for repeat offenses. So it really depends on the situation, depends on the harm that's caused, and if there and how many times and how many victims there are. And as we can see, this is a significant thing. Not only that, by the way, even though the DNA bill, the mandatory testing DNA bill, was defeated, the same congressman resubmitted it again in 2023. So he submitted it the first time in 2022, and it passed, and it did not it passed away, it didn't go through. He submitted it again in 2023, and it failed to go through again. He's really pushing this, and what he's doing is he's modifying the bill each time, so that at some point, they're basically trying to work through it so they can find a way to make DNA testing a requirement. What likely will happen at this point is that the next bill he attempts to push through will likely not make DNA testing mandatory. However, what it may, however, do is it may allow the father, the person who is being accused, because it's an accusation of being the father, to request a DNA test before he is validated as the father, because it's already a crime to knowingly put someone on the birth certificate who is not the father. But it may go not but the mandatory DNA testing requirement may be replaced now. Instead of saying mandatory, it may require that if a man who the woman says is the father, basically says, you know what, I'm not the father, then a DNA test would have to be done to verify if he actually is the father or not the father before she could even receive a dime of child support. And under the current law that they've passed, it actually does structure it in some ways like that. Although she can go after him for child support. However, if it's found that she deliberately misled, put him on there, she's in trouble. But it could change now, where basically the father can say, the guy that's accused of being the father can say, yeah, I don't believe I'm the father, I'm not going to pay this child support, I'm not going to comply with anything until a DNA test is done. And until a DNA test is done legally, if he contests it, not only can they can't require him to do the DNA test, but if he does say the child is not his, then legally the state cannot go after him until a DNA test is done. So that's a big thing that could basically end up happening, and it's not it's actually better because it doesn't require a mandatory test, but it puts up a legal blockade that would prevent the woman from ever being able to collect a dime off this man until a DNA test is actually done if he contests the paternity. So that's really very interesting. And this is actually coming from a Democratic congressman. What this suggests is that they see that marriage is falling apart in Western society, and they are trying to, run and rush to do something because these men are walking away. The statute of limitation has also been removed. So before it used to be 5 years. A guy had to contest paternity within 5 years, or if he didn't do that, regardless if the child was his or not, he would he would have to pay child support for the rest of the child's life. So he would have to pay for Tyrone's baby. That's why Tyrone and Pookie and Ray Ray, they're so pissed off right now that black men are walking away from Western society and saying they don't want to have anything to do with these communities anymore. Because now, the roosters are coming home, and Tyrone and Pookie and Ray Ray, they're gonna have to take care of their kids. Miguel and Enrique, like I said, they've been running around the black community for decades. They're gonna bring these men in shackles. Little Pancho thinks that he's gonna flee to Mexico before they catch him, but they'll catch him. They'll catch him. He thinks he's smart, but he ain't that smart. All right. And when they catch Little Pancho, he's gonna do his time. And when he comes out, they're gonna get their money out of him. They're gonna get their money out of him. And if they have to extradite, if he tries to go back to Mexico and they have to extradite him, they will extradite him. Don't forget about that. Do not forget about that. These men, because like I said, these men basically, it's a loan. I never knew this. MK Fitness revealed it's a loan. So basically, the state takes out a loan on child support. So these men are basically left owing the state money for decades. And you know how the state is. The state is not going to mess around. The state is not going to let all of that money go. Y'all think the state is going to let all of that money go? They're going to surrender all that money? Heck no. Heck no. The state is not going to surrender all of that money. They're not going to say, okay, here you go. We're going to forgive you of this. No, they're going to say, we want our money. We want our money, and we're going to get our money. We're going to get our money, and that's it. And they're going to have to come up with their money. They're going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay the state. They're going to have to give the state's money, or else the state is going to come after them one way or another. You don't just get away with it like that. A lot of y'all know how it is. A lot of y'all that have had to deal with the system know how difficult it is. And Little Pancho is going to have to find the state's money and pay up for that. Guys, if you're enjoying these videos, please help get this channel to 100,000 subscribers on our journey to 2 million. Like the video and turn on notifications to never miss another video ever again. What do you guys think regarding everything we discussed here today? Are you surprised that Keisha could literally be facing anywhere from 3 to 6 years in prison as a result of this new law? And what do you think more so about the potential of DNA testing now being required if the man contests paternity? I want to know what you guys think regarding all of this, and if you think that this is going to begin spreading to more states gradually, because I'm surprised this is coming from the Democrats. This is coming from the Democrats, and they actually passed this into law. So for the Democrats to do that, that it's serious. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments. So, women will now be jailed for paternity fraud as a law passes making paternity fraud a crime. Let's talk about that further in the comments. Your thoughts on everything we discussed here today. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA. I'm walking away and share.